This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Today's headlines. The Legal Council of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ clarified the handover of guns to the CIDG last Saturday. The council also emphasized that members of the KOJC should not be treated as terrorists, for they are law-abiding citizens. Meanwhile, former President Rodrigo Duterte vows not to allow the wrongdoings of the current administration, even if it costs his own life. This follows the latest cancellation of a scheduled maisog rally in Tacloban City this weekend. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky issued an urgent video plea for world leaders to join a peace summit in Switzerland next month. This follows a deadly Russian attack on a DIY hypermarket in Kharkiv on Saturday, killing at least 16 and injuring dozens. Iran-backed Hezbollah warned of potential surprise attacks on Israel as the fighting between Israel and Hamas nears its 8th month. Plans to resume ceasefire talks and release hostages in Gaza are underway as fighting between Israel and Hamas has escalated in recent weeks. I'm Jayne Cognita. Newsline World starts now. The Legal Council of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ clarified regarding the guns handed over to the CIDG last Saturday. Here's the report by Hannah Jane Sancho.
Entrusted and not surrendered. This was clarified by Attorney Israelito Torreon, the Legal Counsel of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, regarding reports released in the media. Attorney Torreon said that there was no need to surrender the guns of Tamayong Barangay Captain Crescenta Enteng, Canada.
We entrusted, we would like to correct it na sinurrender natin, we entrusted for safekeeping the 21 licensed guns of Barangay Kapitan Crescente Enteng, Canada, no? Even if walang order po sa kanya, even if hindi nakansila yung kanyang LTOPF, no? Hindi po nakansila. Pero para maiwasan po natin ang mga salita-salita at mga ibang mga news items na parang sumisira sa ating imahen,
the guns were turned over to Criminal Investigation and Detection Group Region 12 Chief Police Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Pagaduan and Major Edgardo Bahan. Canada, a gun collector, decided to take this action as an act of good faith. Evidence that he and the members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ have no intention of using the guns for violence or as a basis for authorities to issue search warrants.
Bakit natin ginawa ito? Ginawa natin ito to dispel the rumor that these guns are being used to sow terror or to defend Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy. Si Kapitan Crescente Canada ay licensed po na sports gun collector.
21 guns like pistols and rifles were entrusted by Canada to the CIDG. Attorney Torreon emphasized that no one filed a complaint or gave a recommendation to revoke Canada's license for the guns he owns. Attorney Torreon insisted that authorities should not treat Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy and members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ as terrorists.
Kasi po ang mga miyembro po ng Kingdom of Jesus Christ hindi naman po mga terorista. Sila po ay mga complying citizens. They are law-abiding citizens and they are not here to sow terror in our country. As a matter of fact, they are instruments towards nation building.
And as evidence, there was a prior surrender of guns registered under the name of Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, following the issuance of a license revocation by the PNP Firearms and Explosives Office. The KOJC Legal Counsel believes there is no longer any reason for authorities to issue or file search warrants on the properties of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
May mga mali-maling informasyon. Meron daw search warrant daw sila ni-serve doon sa lahat ng properties ng Kingdom. Sana naman po ay Wala na po ito talagang dahilan kasi yung ng mga lisensyadong baril, wala namang recommendation to have it cancelled. In-entrust na namin for safekeeping. Sana naman po kung may mga plano na mga ganoon, ay huwag na po nila ituloy.
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this is Pinhana Jayne Sancho, SMNI News.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte will not allow the wrongdoings of the current administration even if it costs his own life. Following the latest cancellation of a scheduled maisog rally in Tacloban City this weekend, Jayne Cognita has the report.
This is the third time that the Maisog Peaceful Rally has been cancelled. It was first prevented in Malolos City, then in Bustos, Bulacan. And just this weekend, the Maisog Rally in Tacloban City Leyte was also cancelled. Tacloban City is the bailiwick of House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Aside from the bad weather caused by Typhoon Aghon, the Remedios Trinidad Romualdez Plaza, which was supposed to be the venue of the rally, was flooded with trucks. So how could the rally still push through now? Former President Rodrigo Duterte apologized to everyone who was inconvenienced and disappointed by the incident. It cannot be denied that many wanted to join the said peaceful rally. Despite the suppression of freedom of expression, the former president insisted that he will not stop criticizing the wrongdoings of the administration. Duterte added that he will not allow the economic situation to worsen and peace and order in the country to be destroyed and be dragged into a war for the interest of foreigners. He also clarified that the point of his actions is not for personal interest, but for the welfare of every Filipino citizen. The suppression being done by the current administration on the Maisog Rally is a sad day of Philippine democracy. But he said it is also a challenge for us to prove that the country deserves it and the rights that come with it. In the end, former President Duterte said that in his more than 2 decades of service to the people, he has never prevented the conduct of rallies, which he says is a way of expressing the sentiments and grievances of the public to the government. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jayne Cognita, SMNA News.
From women, former cadres to those who supported President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. during the campaign and other sectoral groups are now calling for Marcos Jr. to step down. A former cadre warned the president not to let the situation escalate where the people will rise to reclaim power from him. Let's hear more details from Jason Rubrico.
Marcos alis dyan! Marcos alis dyan! Marcos alis dyan! Marcos alis dyan!
That is the call of various sectoral groups that gathered in Quezon City this Monday. From leaders of women's groups, youth, Muslims, former cadres, bloggers, and other sectoral groups that supported President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. during the election, they all have one cry now.
Marcos alis dyan! Marcos alis dyan!
Thus, the Marcos Alis Dyan movement was formed.
Puno-puno ng salop ng taong bayan. Hindi na pwede na magpapatuloy itong panggigipit, itong pag-aapi, ang pagsusupil sa demokrasya ng tinatawag natin na yung creeping dictatorship ni Bongbong Marcos Jr.
Ben Ranque, one of the organizers of the Marcos Alis Dyan movement, added that the country is currently experiencing a leadership crisis.
Sa Malacanang, ang namumuno ay wala na sa kanyang pag-iisip. Walang kwentang tao. Walang kwentang leader. Ngayon nagsasalita ng oo, bukas nagsasalita ng hindi. Mabahalag ang bayan natin, ang bansang Pilipinas.
For our Muslim brothers and sisters, Marcos Jr. is no longer fit to lead because of the neglected problems and lack of concrete solutions to address those, especially regarding the poverty which many Filipinos are experiencing.
Ramdam na ramdam ko po 100% ang sobrang paghihinagpis, paghihirap ng mga kapwa kong mga Muslim na nandito para maghanap buhay. Bongbong Marcos, nakikiusap po kami bilang representative ng Muslim ladies. Utang na loob po, umalis na po kayo dyan. Sobra na pong taghirap po sa panahon ngayon.
Bantay Masa Group, a representative of the youth sector, is worried about the country's situation if Marcos Jr. continues to lead.
Kung hindi pa po siya bababa sa kanyang pwesto, nakikita ko po sa mga darating na panahon para mas lalala ang kalagayan ng Pilipinas, lalala ang mga kalagayan ng mga kabataan na nag-aangad ng kapayapaan, pero sa kanya, ang iniisip niya lang yung kanyang pansariling kapakanan lamang po.
The Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF, also expressed their sentiments against the president after their leader, Nur Miswari, was found guilty, which they claim is a form of harassment from the current administration. Marcos Jr. allegedly has no sense of gratitude after the MNLF helped him win the election.
He is innocent. Bigla na lang lumitaw despite sa pagtulong ng aming mahal na chairman itong kay BBM na ito sa kanyang candidacy during the campaign. Very clear na ang administrasyong ito ay traidor.
According to former cadre Peter Mutuk, one of the neglected issues by the Marcos administration is the country's security due to the resurgence of illegal drugs and crime. These were eradicated during the Duterte administration but are now rampant again.
Ngayon ho, bumabalik yan. President BBM, dapat alam ninyo yan. Yan ang mga bagay. At yung ipinangako ninyo, itong inilunsad na to, Marcos, alis dyan. Huwag po ninyong baliwalain ito. Ang EDSA, ang tatay ninyo, kayo ay napatanggal, napaalis kayo, delikado to. Sapagkat itong pag-uusap na to ay nakakarating sa buong mundo.
Former cadre Jeffrey Eric Celis emphasized that the sentiment of the people regarding the poor governance of Marcos Jr. is worsening. He said the signs of history are repeating, similar to EDSA 1 when former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. was ousted from Malacanang by a non-violent revolution in 1986.
Huwag niyang antayin na lumala pa ang mga krisis pang politika at ekonomiya at muling aalsa ang taong bayan upang bawiin ang kapangyarihan sa kanya. He needs to listen to the people, otherwise ang kasaysayan ang siyang hahatol muli sa kanya. And this time around, it will happen again. Maybe it will be cruel than the first history na humatol sa kanyang ama.
For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNR News.
The DOJ files child exploitation and qualified trafficking charges against 2 individuals involved in online baby selling. Here's Margot Gonzalez with more details.
Various products offered by companies and individuals online are a big help. Shoppers are provided with wide and easy access to products they want to buy. Almost everything you can think of buying is available online. And there is no more hassle because with just a click, you can have what you want to buy. Yes, various things can be found online. But as time passes, and with the advent of modern technology, malicious individuals have also taken advantage of this. There is what we call the black market, where the sale of contraband is rampant. But what's even more heartbreaking here, not only illegal items are being sold here, but also babies. Yes, innocent human beings are also peddled in the black market. Just this February of the current year, 2 suspects selling babies on the online black market were arrested. This came after the Philippine National Police Women and Children Protection Center received a report from the National Authority for Child Care regarding the sale of babies online. In an operation conducted by the PNP-WCPC, a female police officer acted as a poster buyer of the baby where she transacted with someone named Kois J, who offered the baby for 90,000 pesos. The 2 met at a church in Dasmariñas City, Cavite, where the transaction became official. Using marked money, the authorities received the baby from Kois J, who was later identified as RJ Escalona Malabanan. The mother of the baby, Maria Charissa Rivera Dizon, was also arrested at the scene. They were immediately charged with complaints at the Department of Justice or DOJ. According to the DOJ resolution, the complaint has probable cause, leading to the filing of cases against Malabanan and Dizon at the Manila RTC. The resolution states that the evidence presented is sufficient to prove the crime of qualified trafficking. Among the proven facts are that the respondents are accused facilitated the adoption of a newborn baby. The adoption process involved a payment of 90,000 pesos. The purpose was to expedite the illegal adoption. The trafficking victim is a child, and the trafficking act was carried out using ICT or any computer system, and the transaction was made through the Facebook Messenger platform. The resolution further noted that the respondent's sale of the baby constitutes an act or form of exploitation. The prosecutors did not recommend any bail for qualified trafficking. However, 80,000 pesos is the recommended bail or bond for a child exploitation case. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Mark Gonzalez, SMNI News.
The Department of Health or DOH and Bureau of Quarantine is now intensifying its screening at COVID-19 entry points for flirt variants. Margot Gonzalez has the report.
There is no confirmed cases yet of KP.2 and KP.3 or COVID-19 flirt variants in the country despite the rise in COVID-19 cases, according to Health Secretary Ted Herbosa. In a message, Herbosa said that they still need more samples for their genomic surveillance for KP.2 and KP.3. According to DOH spokesperson ASEC Dr. Albert Domingo, hospitals are instructed to report on this and provide samples for analysis. Currently, the Secretary has instructed the Bureau of Quarantine and other concerned agencies to intensify screening of passengers from countries with the COVID flirt variants. One of the countries being observed by the DOH is Singapore. However, according to the agency, the public should not be alarmed about the COVID-19 flirt variants.
Hindi ho ito dapat dahilan para maging alarma tayo. Tayo po ay nagmamatyag para sa pagpasok kung meron man ng ating KP2 and KP3 COVID variants. Mild po sila. Hindi ho problema yan at kayang-kaya ng ating sistema.
The public is reminded to adhere to minimum health standards, practice cough etiquette, stay at home if experiencing acute respiratory symptoms, wear a face mask if high risk or immunocompromised. All incoming travelers to the Philippines are reminded to complete their health questionnaire on the e-travel application. For God and my beloved country, Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
A former high-ranking official of the National Housing Authority has broken his silence after President Bongbong Marcos stated that previous administrations did nothing for Yolanda rehabilitation efforts. Here's MJ Mondejar with the report.
Former Housing Chief Marcelino Escalada corrected President Bongbong Marcos's claim that the administration he succeeded did nothing for the victims of Super Typhoon Yolanda. President Marcos said,
hindi talaga pa tayo nakapag fully recover, hindi pa natin masasabi na kapag fully recover pa na tayo sa Yolanda. So that's still that all those rehabilitation, you know, we only really started 2 years ago because nothing was done in the previous administration. Nothing was done in the administration before that.
In an exclusive interview with SMNA News, Escalada, the former general manager of the National Housing Authority during the Duterte administration, stated that the president received incorrect information. In fact, under the Duterte administration,
upon the leadership of former President Mayor Rudy Duterte, umabot tayo ng more or less 160,000 ang ating naipatayo.
The target was to build 205,000 houses as part of the Yolanda Rehabilitation Program based on data from the Pinoy administration. Each house, including the land, cost 290,000 pesos, and the government allocated a total budget of 60 billion pesos. The Yolanda Housing Program was initially designed as a deliverable or paid program according to the Aquino government's plan. However, under the Duterte government, the housing was provided for free as the victims of Typhoon Yolanda were in dire need.
So walang babayaran at walang binabayaran yung mga tao na awardees natin in the Yolanda Housing Project. And we started to distribute the titles already to them during our time.
But why did President Marcos claim that the Duterte government did nothing for Yolanda victims? Where in fact, he praised President Duterte in 2017 for the government programs for typhoon victims.
There was a misinformation on the part of the responsible persons giving information to our President Bongbong Marcos.
According to Escalada, The Marcos Jr. government only needs to build 30,000 to 40,000 more houses to complete the Yolanda housing program, and they still have 4 years to do that.
30,000 na lang of the 205,000 target. Yun probably ang sinasabi niya na umpisahan nila. Of course, umpisahan nila because that was the time within which yung budget ng DBM was also released in 2022, 2023 at saka 2024. But in fairness to PIRA administration and PRRD, on board ako doon. Ako ang nandun sa lahat ng 9 provinces, something like around close to 190 LGUs, all the way from Samar, Giwan Samar, hanggang lumabas si Yolanda, sa Yolanda Corridor na tinatawag natin in Palawan.
Escalada posed this challenge to the Marcos administration.
Let the people testify of the production and accomplishments made by the Pinoy administration and the Duterte administration. Ang sa akin lang is that people of Tacloban, hardly and badly hit by Yolanda, can very well tell naman MJ kung anong nangyari dyan.
For Government of Philippines, MJ Mondehap, SM9 News.
Up next, Iran-backed Hezbollah warned of potential surprise attacks on Israel as the fighting between Israel and Hamas nears its 8th month. Plans to resume ceasefire talks and release hostages in Gaza are underway as fighting between Israel and Hamas has escalated in recent weeks. We'll be back after the break.
Pastor Apollo Kibuloy.
Kibuloy is a threat to peace and order in the country.
Father, you have ordained leaders for the development, prosperity of our country, no matter what. The scriptures are very clear. And the scriptures tells us to put them up in supplications and prayers, that they may do the right thing, that they may guide our nation towards peace and development and prosperity.
Before I become extinct, I'd like to say to you, talagang you're the son of God.
Magandang umaga Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Maayong buntag mga kapartner. Magandang araw sa buong mundo.
Magandang araw Pilipinas. Ito ang Pulso ng Bayan.
Hihimayin ang mga pangunahing issue sa ating bayan. Susuriin ang mga kinakailangang malaman ng taong bayan. Aalamin ang pulso ng bawat Pilipino sa mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. Pulso ng Bayan, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes. Kasama ang spokes ng Bayan, Attorney Harry Roque, Admar Vilado at Jade Calabroso. Dito lang sa SMNI.
Abangan ng Banateros tuwing Lunes hanggang Huwebes, live dito lang sa SMNI.
Yan ang Banateros, walang inuurungan. Pag tama palakpakan, pag mali ay babanatan. Yan ang Banateros.
Sabi nga nila, di ba? You will know them by their love. Yun ang sinabi sa Biblia. It's not on how good you are in quoting the scripture. It's giving love.
Grabe, hindi talaga hindi talaga kasya yung words eh. Kung paano natin i-express yung ating na-experience.
Mismo wala akong masabi. Kita ko kasi yung pagiging generous. Alam mo, madali kasi magsalita ng Diyos eh. Pero pagdating sa pera, pagdating sa pagiging generous, yung pagtulong sa iba, hindi biro yun. Maraming bagsak dyan. Maraming bagsak. Kaya ako nakikita ko yung pagiging generous niya. Hindi sa salita sa lakad. Bilib ako. Hindi dakdak. Nakita mo sa gawa. In one word, authentic. Kung akong tatanungin, kahit saang aspeto, gusto ko garantisado. Metikuloso akong tao, kaya gusto ko lahat maayos at sigurado. Lahat quality, yung hindi ako makukompromiso, pero sulit ang presyo. Ganyan ang clean fuel, kaya dito, panatag ang loob ko.
Magandang umaga po, sir. Full tank po.
Full tank. Kung gusto mo ng dekalidad na gasolina pero sulit ang halaga, mag-clean fuel ka.
Back to our news, several farmer groups are concerned about the potential impact of Typhoon Aghon on the agricultural sector. According to them, they have not yet recovered from the severe damage caused by the El Nino phenomenon. However, the Agriculture Department has issued advice to farmers and fishermen in the light of the calamity. Sheena Torno has a report.
This is the situation in several agricultural lands across the country, severely damaged by past typhoons. Flooded fields of rice, corn, and vegetables have led to significant losses for farmers. The agriculture sector has not yet recovered from the severe effects of the El Nino phenomenon, and now it faces the impact of Typhoon Aghon, the first typhoon of the year 2024. The Federation of E-Farmers Cooperative is concerned about the potential damage Typhoon Aghon could cause to crops, especially as some farmers are still trying to harvest their agriculture products.
Siyempre, may tatamaan talaga dyan. So, yun ang reality naman sa agriculture. Bigla makakabagyo o kaya may drought. So, unless nakapag-prepare ka talaga in advance, wala ka magagawa dahil nandiyan na yung bagyo.
The FFF does not dismiss the possibility that the damage from the heavy rains brought by typhoons could be greater than the impact of El Nino phenomenon, as previously stated by the Agriculture Department.
Dahil yung El Nino medyo ma-offset mo pa siya by irrigation or mga irrigation pumps. Medyo may magagawa ka pa kasi kung may makuna ka ng tubig, di kaya niyang labanan yung drought. No? Pero pag bagyo, hangin, paglubog, flooding, mahirap nung kunin yun eh. Mahirap mong i-counteract yung mga ganon.
The Department of Agriculture advises farmers and fishermen under tropical cyclone wind signals due to Typhoon Aghon to harvest the remaining mature crops and utilize post-harvest facilities, ensure the safety of livestock, as well as reserve seeds, fertilizers, and farming equipment. The agency also urges fishermen to secure fishing vessels in higher ground and avoid sea travel as potentially rough conditions prevail over affected seaboards. The Agriculture Department clarified that they have not yet received data on any damage to agriculture caused by the said typhoon.
Sa ngayon tinitingnan pa namin kasi alam naman po natin na halos katatapos lang ng ng harvesting ng sapala. Yung iba nagsisimulang yung may access sa tubig, naglaland preparation pa lang sila.
The department is prepared to assist affected farmers and fishermen in the event of damage due to the Typhoon Aghon. Potential interventions by the agency are also ready to be deployed if needed. Despite the calamities, the supply of basic commodities remains sufficient. However, the Department of Agriculture calls for
ang pinaka-importante dito is ma-determine talaga natin, una, yung mga pinanggagalingan ng mga produkto kung saan. Baka naman hindi pinagay yung produkto, yung pinanggagalingan ng produkto, sinasamantala lang ang kalamidad para makapagtaas ng presyo. Huwag natin kakalimutan na may price act, no? Na yung mga unusual na pagtataas ng presyo, pag nakita nating may trending, may karapatang ano din po yan, base sa batas.
The Trade and Industry Department does not foresee a shortage of basic and prime commodities despite challenges from El Niño phenomenon and now Typhoon Aghon. Several manufacturers continue to voluntarily implement price freeze to help consumers amid the rising prices of basic goods. The TTI can implement a price freeze in areas under a state of calamity or emergency. However, areas under Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal number 3 are free to impose a price freeze on basic goods.
Pag nagpatupad sila ng price freeze at walang state of calamity, pabor po yan sa ating mga consumers. And parang titingnan po natin yan bilang tulong po ng mga manufacturers sa mga consumers sa panahon nga nitong pahirapan tayo ngayon na may mga kalamidad at saka meron tayong matataas na inflation numbers at saka ito nga papasok na ang La Nina. So malaya po silang gawin yan.
For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMNI News.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development has delivered initial humanitarian assistance totaling 1.3 million pesos to those affected by Typhoon Aghon. Meanwhile, the Department of Energy has called on the public to conserve electricity amid the ongoing impact of the typhoon. Creseline Catarong reports.
Several parts of the country continue to experience the onslaught of Typhoon Aghon. According to Pag-asa, flooding and landslides are possible, especially in areas that have experienced heavy rainfall in recent days. In response to this, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, continues to coordinate to localities affected by Typhoon Aghon for the assistance efforts. During a public briefing on Monday, DSWD spokesperson Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao stated that they have delivered initial humanitarian assistance to the provinces of Marinduque, Oriental Mindoro, Albay, Camarines Sur, and Sorsogon. She mentioned that a total of over 1.3 million pesos worth of family food packs and non-food items have been delivered to these areas.
Dahil nga nasa response stage tayo, ang immediate items na pinapadala talaga natin ay yung pagkain, no? Ito yung ating family food pack. Gayon din yung mga nasa evacuation centers, of course, yung ating pong ipapahatid naman na tulong dyan ay yung mga non-food items, particularly no, yung mga hygiene kits and sleeping kids.
DSWD has also held meetings with other agencies to prepare necessary aid such as food, medicine, and transportation of relief items.
Of course, ang DSWD being the vice chair of the response cluster of the NDMC pillar on response ay nagkipagpulong nga po no, sa mga member agencies and talaga noong Sabado at in-identify natin ano po ba yung kinakailangan nating ihanda. And of course, doon naman po sa mga ibang agencies na katuwang natin in transporting or in ferrying these relief items ay atin din naman pong nakasangguni.
In addition, Department of Health spokesperson Assistant Secretary Albert Domingo assured that hospitals in affected areas are prepared for the possible effects of the typhoon.
Yun pong ating tulong no, sa mga bagyong Aghon. Ang ating pong mga ospital dun sa mga bahagi na apektado ay code white na simula po nung May 24 pa lang. Huwag pong maalarma, ibig sabihin po handang-handa ang ating sistema.
On the other hand, the Energy Department has called for the public's cooperation to reduce electricity usage. This comes after a significant decrease in available power supply in Luzon due to the impact of Typhoon Aghon. During a virtual press conference, DOE Secretary Rafael Otilla urged everyone to conserve energy to reduce the need for dispatching more expensive oil-based power plants.
We would like to ask everyone's cooperation to minimize the use of electricity, particularly in the Luzon grid. The typhoon caused substantial decrease in available power supply in the grid at a time when the hydropower plants have not yet recovered from their low water supply.
Secretary Lutilla also encouraged commercial and industrial consumers to participate in the Interruptible Load Program, or ILP. He explained that oil-based power plants were used temporarily as sources of electricity in Luzon grid due to the absence of hydropower plants. Under the ILP, large companies that consume significant amounts of electricity temporarily refrain from drawing power from the grid. Instead, they use their own generators or reduce operations if there is a shortage of power supply. Meanwhile, DOE officials reported that 9 power plants were affected by Typhoon Agon, leading to their capacity to supply electricity being shut down due to the severe weather conditions. A total of 23 power plants were not generating electricity, with 12 already offline before the typhoon struck. Energy Undersecretary Rowena Cristina Guevara shared that the red alert status in Luzon is expected to continue next week if some power plants remain unavailable to meet the increasing demand for electricity.
If the situation does not improve, if the plants that went offline because of the typhoon do not come back by next week, probably we'll have a red alert also next week.
According to Pag-asa, Typhoon Agon is expected to exit the Philippine area of responsibility on Wednesday night. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Kerseling Catarong, SMNI News.
The Philippine Army is considering the possibility that the farmers in Manabilang, Lanao del Sur who have gone viral online may have been influenced by leftist groups. Here's Almar Forsuelo with the report.
This video was taken by a netizen in Barangay Sumugot, Amay Manabilang, Lanao del Sur.
Ito na ba ang bagong gobyerno?
The individuals in the video are farmers who are allegedly being forced to live by the Southern Philippines Development Authority, or SPDA. In an exclusive interview with SMNA News, Philippine Army spokesperson Colonel Louis Di Maala explained that they were present in the area because the SPDA made a legitimate request for their assistance. He stated that the SPDA plans to develop 26,000 hectares of land.
It is a legitimate request, no, nung Southern Philippines Development Authority, which is a unit under the Office of the President, managing yung 26,000 hectares of land doon sa Wao, Lanao area, no, for economic development.
Additionally, the SPDA allegedly sought security details because they had been harassed by the farmers on multiple occasions.
However, may mga illegal tillers doon sa lugar, no? Kaya hindi nila ma-develop. May mga equipment yung SPDA na pupunta doon and yung personnel hinaharas. So yung SPDA humingi ng security support sa Philippine National Police, and nandoon din yung Philippine Army, no, because of the security situation doon sa lugar.
The official added that a dispute between both parties had been settled previously, but the farmers suddenly returned.
Akala natin okay na yung situation, nag-start na clearing yung ating yung members ng SPDA, members ng Southern Philippines Development Authority, saka biglang nagbalikan yung mga tao. So doon na nag-start yung pagbibideo nila. But yung Philippine National Police and the Philippine Army is nasa outside lang for security. Ang nakipagharap lang talaga sa kanila doon is yung members, yung manager ng SPDA at si Sultan.
Because of this, the Philippine Army is considering the possibility that the farmers might be influenced by the leftist groups.
Yung lugar dati is influence ng CPP-NPA. Kaya tinitingnan din natin yon.
For now, while the situation remains tense, both parties are engaging in proper dialogue to address the issue.
Nandoon pa rin sila kasi yung lugar na yon is part ng kanilang sinasaka. So with the proper dialogue, so nililiwanagan naman sila, may provide naman sa kanilang mga lugar na pwede nilang isaka except doon sa mga lugar na designated for economic development, which is sila din naman yung mga ikinabang.
SMNA News is still trying to get comments from the SPDA, LGU, and farmers regarding this issue. For God and my beloved Philippines, Almar Forsuelo, SMNA News.
Based on the history of the Philippines, former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo is not convinced that the president does not meddle nor dictate either houses of Congress.
Ang kasaysayan ng Pilipinas ay nagpapakita na walang pagbabago dyan sa Senado, sa Kamara de Representante, na walang alam o walang kinalaman o hindi dinikta ng Pangulo ng Bansa. Yan ang history po yan. There is only one president in the annals of this Senate as well as House of Representatives record na hindi nakialam. Walang pakialam, hindi nakialam at ayaw makialam. Ayan po ay si Presidente Duterte.
The former cabinet member of former President Rodrigo Duterte cited that in the previous administration, there was a change of leadership in the Senate, but Duterte was not aware of it.
Nung mag-assume siya, ang Senate President ay si Coco Pimentel. Kausap ko si Senator Coco Pimentel kasi nga sinusulat ko yung article. Gusto ko maging factual. Tinanong ko siya, paano ka makako napalitan? Sabi ni Senator Coco, hindi ako pinalitan. Walang pumalit sa akin. Sabi ko, paano ka natanggal? Hindi rin ako natanggal. Kusang loob ako na nagbigay sa isang kasamang senador. Kasi palagi sinasabi niya sa akin, kahit isang araw lang ako maging Senate President, okay na. Sabi niya, ako naman, hindi naman ako matakaw sa posisyon. Kung baga, itong si Coco Pimentel, graciously and unselfishly give way to then Senator Tito Soto when he intimated to the Senate President Coco then na gusto niya rin maging Senate President. Binigay niya. Madali sabi, kaya napakaganda ng transition. Walang masama loob, walang napilitan. Talagang maganda.
Meanwhile, in the lower house of Congress, former President Duterte had to intervene because of the conflict between Congressman Lord Alan Velasco, former Congressman Alan Peter Cayetano, and Martin Romualdez. Panelo said the three had asked Duterte for help to settle their disagreement. Panelo added that the former president respects the equal branch of government because
siya kasi respectful sa equal branch of the government. Pero itong presenting Senado at mga nakarampa, talaga namang hindi equal branch yan. Unequal and subservient.
Attorney Panelo added that Duterte did not have to meddle with the lawmakers because they knew the former president's programs were good, which is why he had their support. On the other hand, Attorney Panelo has a message for the staff of the current administration who are giving the wrong information to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. with the intent of destroying the image of the Duterte administration.
Actually, sinisira nila ang imahe ng administrasyon ngayon. Gaya nga na sinabi ko kanina, ano ba kayo, mga lihim ba kayong kaaway ni Presidente Marcos Jr.? Kasi yung mga issue tinatapon nyo sa dating administrasyon, nagbubumirang Ayan ang problema.
Iran-backed Hezbollah warned of potential surprise attacks on Israel as the fighting between Israel and Hamas nears its 8th month. Melchizedek Cadiz reports.
Hezbollah, which is part of the so-called Axis of Resistance led by Iran, warned Israel to be ready for surprises from the group. Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of the Lebanon-based resistance, made the warning to mark the 24th anniversary of Resistance and Liberation Day. Nasrallah said Israel has not achieved any of its goals by launching a war in Gaza. The group Secretary General was referring to Israeli National Security Council head Zaki Hanisbi's statement that they have not achieved any of the strategic goals and it may take years. However, the Israeli official said that his country has the right to defend itself after the International Court of Justice (ICJ) ordered Israel to immediately halt its military offensive. The Lebanon-based group also asserted the recognition of the Palestinian state by several European countries. He added that Israel getting summoned before the International Criminal Court (ICC) was one of the results of the October 7th attack launched by Hamas, also known as Al-Aqsa Flood Battle. Fighting between Israel and Hamas is now approaching its 8th month with no end in sight to the deadly clashes. Reporting from Kuwait, I am Melchizedek Cadiz, your global citizen correspondent for God and for our beloved country, the Philippines.
Plans to resume ceasefire talks and the release of hostages in Gaza are being worked on in the coming days as the fighting between Israel and Hamas escalated in recent weeks. Gratero Mori brings the report.
Prospects for a resumption of ceasefire talks grew by the day after the chief of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency met the Prime Minister of Qatar and the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. The goal is to facilitate the exchange of Israeli hostages held captive in Gaza and Palestinian prisoners. CIA Director Bill Burns is expected to travel to Europe in the coming days to meet the head of Israel's spy agency and the Prime Minister of Qatar. Talks held in Egypt and Qatar for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza reached a deadlock 2 weeks ago as Israel pursued its military offensive in Rafah. The last round of talks in Cairo saw Israel demanding Hamas release 33 living hostages, women, female soldiers, men over 50, and men who are in serious health conditions. However, Hamas said they could only release 18 hostages and offered to return the bodies of about 15 dead hostages to reach the number demanded by Israel. Meanwhile, Hamas official Osama Hamdan declined Israel's intention to renew talks on the Gaza truce. The Hamas official said that the group's immediate requirement is for Israel to withdraw from the Gaza Strip. After the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to stop its military offensive in Gaza, Francesca Albanese, the United Nations Special Rapporteur in the occupied Palestinian territories, called for sanctions to be imposed on Israel, for the provision of weapons to be banned, and suspension of diplomatic relations until it complies with the court's decision. Reporting from Dubai, I'm Gratero Omor, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News Channel.
Up next, evacuations were carried out across 7 villages in Indonesia over the weekend as the country's second most active volcano erupted again. New Zealand has taken a firm stance opposing the development of war robots that contravene international humanitarian law. In a bold move, Sweden has authorized Ukraine to deploy weapons against Russia as the conflict between the two nations enters its 3rd year. This decision, amidst escalating tensions and ongoing fighting, marks a significant development in the regional dynamics and has the potential to reshape the balance of power in the region. We'll be back with more news.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity.
Back to our news, top diplomats from Japan, South Korea and China gathered in Seoul for their first trilateral summit in nearly 5 years. Shaloli has a report.
China presented a 5-point proposal to strengthen ties with Japan and South Korea as the three Northeast Asian neighbors sat down for a rare summit delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic and political differences. Chinese Premier Li Xiang met South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Seoul for the rare summit. The annual meeting was perceived as a positive sign in improving diplomatic relations as the neighboring Asian countries face economic uncertainty in the wake of global tensions and shifting geopolitics. China urged Japan and South Korea to reject protectionism and uphold free trade amid deepening security cooperation between Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington. Chinese Premier Li expressed his country's uneasiness about Japan and South Korea's deepening security partnership with the U.S., which Beijing sees as an attempt to form a bloc to contain China. He also asserted China's opposition to turning economic and trade issues into political games or security matters. President Yoon and Premier Lee agreed to hold diplomatic talks involving senior diplomats and defense officials from South Korea and China in mid-June. Meanwhile, the summit was overshadowed by North Korea's announcement of its plan to launch its second spy satellite into orbit between May 27th and June 4th. The three nations also discussed the situation in Taiwan and agreed to speed up negotiations toward the signing of a three-way free trade agreement and work together to strengthen supply chains. The next round of trilateral summit will be hosted by Japan. Reporting from South Korea, this is Shaloli, your global citizen correspondent for God and our beloved country, the Philippines.
Residents in 7 villages have evacuated in Indonesia after the country's second most active volcano erupted again this past weekend. Carlo De La Peña has the story.
The stratovolcano Mount Ibu startled residents after it erupted for the second time in 10 days. Mount Ibu erupted twice on Saturday evening, forcing evacuation of residents in 7 villages located near the volcano. Indonesia's second largest volcano, located on the remote Halmahera Island, recorded more than 21,000 eruptions last year. Authorities warned tourists and those living around the volcano to not get close to it, as well as to use eye protection and face masks. The 4,347-foot volcano has been spewing thick gray ash and dark clouds up to 16,400 feet into the air for days in a row last week. Local officials raised the alert level from 4 to 5 and set up a 7-kilometer exclusion zone. The latest incident happened after Mount Ruang volcano in Indonesia's North Sulawesi province erupted last month, causing thousands of residents to flee from their homes and forcing airports to shut. Reporting, this has been Carlo De La Peña, SMNI News.
A Thai activist who has been on a hunger strike for months has been granted bail by the country's criminal court. Chat Mongkonpi sa May Guson has the report.
Young activist Tantawan Tuatulanon was temporarily released after spending behind bars since February. Tantawan faces charges for breaching Article 116 of the Penal Code, the Computer Crimes Act, as well as traffic laws and refusing to obey police orders. The 22-year-old was also arrested for attempting to overtake a royal motorcade on February 8 and was charged twice with lèse majesté in 2022. Article 116 of the Thai Criminal Code prohibits individuals from starting unrest or causing citizens to transgress the laws of the country with a penalty of up to 7 years imprisonment for acts of sedition. Meanwhile, Thailand's lèse majesté law, which is among the strictest in the world, deems it illegal to defame, insult, or threaten the monarch of Thailand, which includes the king, queen, heir apparent, heir presumptive, or regent. Penalties range from 3 to 15 years imprisonment for each offense. The young activist was granted a reprieve 13 days after 28-year-old Netipon Bungsane Sangkom died of cardiac arrest after spending more than 100 days on hunger strike. The court refused to grant her bail several times before finally giving in on Monday. Reporting from Thailand, I'm Chatmongkom Bisamay Kosod, your Global Citizens correspondent for SMN News, Channel.
New Zealand maintained its stance on opposing the development of war robots that do not comply with international humanitarian law. Trisha Molina files this report.
Hey, Samantha. What's the weather like today?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
No to killer robots. New Zealand's stance on the issue remained the same as the country submitted its response to the United Nations on autonomous weapon systems this past weekend. Government ministers from the Pacific country earlier this year stated that while not all autonomous weapon systems use artificial intelligence, rapid technological advancements such as machine learning and AI made them more versatile, capable, and lethal. In its latest report to the United Nations, New Zealand confirmed it will continue in its campaigns to seek binding international prohibitions and regulations of autonomous weapon systems, or AWS. The country acknowledged that AWS that meets ethical and legal requirements may offer legitimate benefits to the military. New Zealand does not expect to gain huge support in its campaign for a blanket ban. The country supported a new arms control campaign around AI. The concept of killer robots has sparked concerns and alarmed several countries worldwide in recent years due to the advancement of AI amid fears that what was once an interesting science fiction could become a grim reality in years to come. Nations worldwide are developing lethal autonomous weapons controlled by AI, which some experts said could shape the future of modern battlefields and usher the third revolution in warfare. Reporting, this has been Trisha Molina, SMNI News.
Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky issued an urgent video plea for world leaders to join a peace summit in Switzerland next month. This follows a deadly Russian attack on a DIY hypermarket in Kharkiv on Saturday, killing at least 16 and injuring dozens. Zelensky specifically called on U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping to attend the summit starting June 15th, urging them to show leadership in advancing real peace.
And I am appealing to the leaders of the world who are still aside of the global efforts of the Global Peace Summit. To President Biden, the leader of the United States, and to President Xi, the leader of China. Please show your leadership in advancing the peace, real peace, not just a pause between the strikes. The efforts of global majority are the best guarantee that all commitments will be fulfilled. Please support the Peace Summit with your personal leadership and participation.
Meanwhile, on Monday, China said that it supports International Peace Conference on Ukraine recognized by Russia. Beijing backs timely convening of conference recognized by both Russian and Ukrainian sides, says Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning. China emphasizes conference should involve Moscow's participation, ensure equal participation of all parties, and a fair discussion on peace plans. Mao added that China encourages all efforts conducive to peaceful resolution of the Ukraine crisis. Sweden has authorized Ukraine to use its transferred weapons against Russia as fighting between the neighboring borders surpassed 2 years. Here is Trisha Molina with the report.
It has been less than 3 months since Sweden became the 32nd member of NATO, but the Nordic country has been true to its commitment in protecting the Baltic Sea. In a landmark move, Sweden recently became the first country that allowed Ukraine to use the weapons it has provided in its war against Russia. In a recent interview, Swedish Minister for Defense Paul Johnson acknowledged Ukraine's right to self-defense. Sweden last week pledged additional military support totaling $7 billion for Ukraine, which will run for 3 years, starting from 2024 to 2026. Following the new proposal, Sweden's humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine has now exceeded 100 billion Swedish krona, or over $9 billion. Sweden made the announcement a few days after NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg became the latest high-profile Western leader to call for an end to the ban and allow Ukraine to use Western-supplied weapons to strike targets in Russia. Reporting, this has been Trisha Molina, SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. You cannot defeat darkness by darkness, evil by evil, and hate by hate. You can only defeat darkness by light, evil by good, and hate by love. That's all for this edition. For more updates, you may visit smninewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Jayne Cognita, and this is Newsline World.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Subscribe to SMNI News Channel and turn on the notification bell to keep you up to date. Also visit our official social media accounts and join our community on Viber and Telegram.